You should
All right, guys, we'll be starting our stream soon.
wear. Are you
Okay.
wearing headphones?
Yeah, I do. All right, everyone. How are you doing after a Warriors loss? This one was pretty much a heartbreaker today. Pretty sad. Honestly, I thought the Warriors would win. It was a really close game. I think it ended up being 121 to 118, but I honestly couldn't watch the game after the Warriors fell down 121 to 113 in overtime. I think the two biggest things I took away from this game were just, man, the Warriors could not rebound when they needed to. And those two late threes, I mean, Al Horford is like the bane of my existence sometimes, I feel like. It's just so tough with him defending the
Uh,
rim and everything like
yeah.
that.
Mistake from Draymond Green to help off Horford again. I think he did that twice this game. He's done that before, but honestly, pretty good defensive game from the Warriors. I think they really did a good job making the Celtics rely on Al Horford, Robert Williams, Marcus Smart, and I think that's probably good enough for like a playoff level win. Because I can imagine that in that type of game, maybe I mean, if two shots go differently, the Warriors are coming out with a win. So
Don't you feel like, though, it's a little bit of a reoccurring theme? I feel like this was the game that the Warriors kind of needed in terms of Jaylen Brown was not playing well throughout the whole
yeah,
entire game until the very, very end. It just was so tough to watch, honestly. Like, he hit 1 3 the whole game, and it was the 1 3 we couldn't let happen. I feel like we lost this game in regular time. I wouldn't even talk about overtime, honestly. But the game
yeah,
shouldn't
you're
have gone
probably
there, I
right.
felt like.
Yeah, I mean, I think though that the reason that Jaylen Brown played so poorly was a result of good Warriors defense. Um, Same with Jason Tatum. I mean, I know he had like 34, 17, and 8 or something, but for like the first 3.5 quarters, he was really off. And it wasn't just because he was missing shots or having a bad game by himself. It was largely, I think, because of good defense and also the fact that he's still not trusting the pass enough against the Warriors. He looks for scoring opportunities a lot. And I think the Warriors know how to punish that. But yeah, tough loss.
No, but I guess I won't be so down. This one really hurts because I felt like I think they put up that stat in the lower third during a couple of minutes down there that the Warriors are 0-10 versus winning teams on the road. And it really felt like that's what happened to us. We had a great third quarter, put up 33 points, I think 34 points in the third quarter. Steph Curry really had it going in the third quarter. We hit a half court shot during the game. I was like, we got to win this one. I mean, Draymond Green hits a big three, too. I was just like, we have to win this one. And then the Al Horford three and then the Jaylen Brown three were just shots that the Warriors, it feels like, shouldn't give up. And I know this is a regular season game, but it was clear that Kerr went to a playoff rotation. He only played 8 people tonight, and which might be part of the problem the Warriors are having right now, which is just we don't have many players we can actually play reliably. It seems like Moses Moody has basically fallen off the rotation. I don't know about you, but it seems kind of concerning that our depth is so weak right now.
Yeah. Let's do that in the postgame conference. We had a few minutes before we started. He's going to keep starting Jordan Poole for the next few games.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow against Cleveland. Honestly, I would scratch that game off the calendar on a game that the Warriors are going to try and win. Honestly,
Yeah, that's what sucks even more,
um,
honestly,
you know,
because they're
if
definitely
you're a
not going to
Cleveland
win that
Cavaliers
game.
fan,
You know, we don't play Curry back to backs. We don't play. We probably won't play Clay back to back. We kind of needed this game. It felt like just for the road trip as a whole.
yeah, I mean, I think the Warriors definitely wanted that. Um, Probably, I think once they get into the second half of the season and are below 500 is that they need that for the win. But I think a good thing you can take is that they came to play in Boston, and I mean, they were a shot away from winning the game. And honestly, this gives me hope that they're going to play well in Memphis as well. Although, I mean, I don't really expect them to win. And I say might have a motivation issue.
Yeah.
Here, right?
Yeah.
And whenever they play like Celtics or that, they really get up to the games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I don't want to be emotional like about this game, obviously. So I kind of wanted to move on a little bit to the more, I guess, nitty gritty points of like what this means for the Warriors season as a whole. And I think you hit on one of them that's really important, which is Jordan Poole moving into the starting lineup. I thought he had a good impact tonight. It felt like his late game decision making still isn't where I would want it to be. He got blocked, I think, 2 times on key possessions by Al Horford. One of them was actually a foul. Like the guy got no ball and hit only Jordan Poole's hand. I think it was Al Horford as he was driving to the rim. It was a pretty game changing play. I feel like the refs really missed one there, but they missed one on everyone. But it just felt like he needs to make better decisions in the clutch. But one encouraging thing I did see is honestly, Jordan Poole did not get picked on as much as I thought he would during this game. He came up with a couple huge steals during the game, and I think him in the starting lineup is actually really key to the Warriors being better in the postseason. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, he had good hands, and I think I mean, honestly, I feel like this game is net positive for most of the Warriors. I think the fact that Steph and Dre made a few mistakes, kind of string back to back in overtime mainly, to give away the game is fine because that stuff happens. And I think that for me, it's like the Warriors always have problems with helping off strong side shooters just because of the nature of their help defense. I mean, Draymond Green is the best help defender in the NBA, but you take gambles when you play that way. And when you make mistakes, which happens for everyone, there will be games like this where it bites you. I mean, you could definitely say that he shouldn't be helping that far off of Al Horford. But I think that the team played pretty well given the environment and that they're very poor on the road.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Warriors played really well this game, I felt like. And I feel like you talked about kind of the Warriors ice coverage a little bit there. And I think that was key as well. But I don't know, man. I mean, it feels like it wasn't really like our defense was incredible. To me, honestly, when I look back at it and after a little bit of time to kind of think about it, it seems like honestly, maybe I can just chalk it up to Wiggins was a bit rusty on the offensive end. Steph Curry, it looked like ran out of gas kind of into that fourth quarter.
Wiggins had a 3 wide open corner.
Exactly, yeah.
By the game, so you make that, the game's completely different, obviously. And then Jaylen Brown had a relatively contested 3 that he just drained, right? So.
Well, yeah, I mean that possession was a defensive breakdown from the Warriors because if you looked at that possession, the only way the Celtics get back in the game is with a 3-point shot. They should just guard all the 3-pointers, and if they let a 2 go, an easy 2 is fine because you're still up 1 with probably about 25 to 26 seconds left on the shot clock.
Honestly, I think Jaylen Brown usually would attack that closeout from Wiggins, but I feel like when you're in that game situation, yeah, it's a fault on Wiggins, but also good shot making from Jaylen Brown in that exact position.
And I think it also shows you how good Wiggins can be because his impact in games where we need a big wing is actually like incredible. Like
Yeah,
the difference even between tonight and you just look at last year's finals Wiggins was insane. Like he's a great defender. He can poke the ball away. And the Warriors can get back to their defensive mindset. I think the questions that I need answered for the Warriors over this period is: are they going to play enough games with their guys to get into that top four seed, which I think they personally need home field advantage, with home field being such a, well, I guess home court, I shouldn't say home field, this isn't football, but home court advantage in the playoffs, at least for a couple of rounds. And then second, are we going to remain healthy? That's always the huge question. And then third, who is that last piece? It seems like we like to go to Anthony Lamb, we like to go to Dante DiVincenzo, and then like Kevin Looney on the bench now. But I feel like one of Kuminga, Wiseman, Jermichael Green is going to have to work their way into that rotation, so that players like, I feel like honestly, Robert Williams, players that are huge, that just offensive rebound and cause Draymond to waste a lot of energy,
yeah,
aren't continuing to beat us. Because if we have Wiseman there, I mean, that's what we wanted Wiseman to do. Ideally, he would match up well and be able to rebound against Robert Williams. That was the ideal thing we're thinking of. And even Stephen A. Smith, I think when he's thinking of like, oh wow, Wiseman, I mean, all these NBA commentators like, oh, Wiseman's coming. It's like, I think they think of his size as if he's going to be a great rebounder for a team that doesn't have much rebounding.
yeah. I mean, I think Kuminga is that missing. I mean, it's not like a missing piece, but Kuminga would have been incredibly useful tonight,
Oh, absolutely.
especially for rebounding.
And defense. He's
So
gotten a lot better on
yeah,
defense.
defense. Yeah, so I mean, I think the Warriors starting five played a really good game, and then it just came down to defensive mistakes uh, and turnovers, which I think is okay. I'm just worried because the Warriors don't win the games against these sub 500 teams that allow you to lose
Yeah, to the
consistent. I
more
mean,
competitive teams.
either you do very well against competitive teams, all of your competitive matchups, which is what happened to the Warriors in the first half of the season last year, right?
Yeah.
Like they beat the Nets, they destroyed the Nets, they destroyed the Clippers, and they beat the Sun. You know, yeah, and that allows for you to lose games like against the Pistons. Um, but they don't have that this year. So even though the Warriors played well, there's going to be a point in the next however many games where it doesn't really matter if it's a good loss or a bad loss.
They just need wins. Yeah. Yeah. I think we hit a little bit on Jordan Poole already and kind of his change into the starting lineup. Just a really close game. Still kind of hurts, mainly because we probably are going to see the B team Warriors tomorrow. But any other big takeaways for you out of this game?
I mean, I think part of the reason I thought this was a great game from the Warriors is because everything that needs to go well in a playoff series for the Warriors did well this game. Uh, Steph and Dre were connected. Steph was mastering the off-ball movement, which I think shows you that the Warriors are still effective against the top-level defense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought there was really disciplined paint protection from Jordan Poole on drives, from Draymond mostly, and Loon. Good defense. But yeah, that was not a pretty turnover or overtime. And I think once the game goes like that for you, overtime against athletic young wings gets kind of hard.
Yeah, and it feels like that last possession really kind of ate away at the Warriors. It was like Draymond kind of like threw his hands up in frustration after Jaylen Brown made that three, just because
Yeah,
of the importance of that shot and everything like that. It just felt like it was kind of like, oh man, how could you let this happen? This is the one shot that lets them in the game type thing. So definitely a frustrating loss for sure. I think
yeah,
though, this proves to me more than ever that if the Warriors can make it into the playoffs, they really they're still a contender. They're still one of the top teams in the West, and why everyone in their power rankings is putting a 500, now sub 500 team, I guess, on their power rankings as one of the
Yeah.
top teams in the West. Because who are you going to trust in a series? And a lot of our players are, it feels like, are still getting back into business. I expect a better game from Steph Curry even next time. If you look at his statistics today, I believe he was like 9 of 25 from the field. He scored over 20 points, which is incredible. But he wasn't as efficient as we could see Steph Curry be in a real series where he's picking on Al Horford. I feel like Andrew Wiggins still has a long, long, long way to go in terms of being his best game. He had a couple wide open threes that you talked about, and he also had a couple wide open twos. I felt like that he usually makes, and also he wasn't as aggressive towards the basket. I feel like as he would be kind of in his prime, and you might say that's maybe balanced out by the fact that Jaylen Brown also probably wasn't at 100%. But I think Wiggins is probably the second best player on the floor, not on the floor, but on our team, the Warriors, when they are playing somebody like the Celtics, just because of his importance on the defensive end as well.
Yeah, I mean the Warriors the first half the Warriors were shooting like 32% from the field.
Yeah.
Low 30s still in the game because of good defense and a lot of their sets working. And I feel like that's encouraging. I just feel like it. I think we'll also discover and have maybe already confirmed that for some reason the Road Warriors are a different team than Warriors, which is a bizarre thing because a lot of teams have better home records, but usually it's not like polar opposite. And yeah, I just think we'll probably know relatively soon, or we'll confirm that something's just off on the road. Might be motivation, might be something else, but if that's the case, then even though I still consider them like a Western Conference Finals team, you could argue that this means that they're not going to fare well against the best team in the NBA. But they just hang well with the Celtics, which are currently the best team. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for the Warriors to compete with the best in the West. But if you think about it that way, the Warriors always just try to steal one at home, one on the road, and they always usually win at home. So I think, we still have a chance in the playoffs. I think we just need to look at each game in the regular season and really evaluate the roster and make sure we don't get injured. That's what I'm going to be looking for this next couple games. Just making sure Andrew Wiggins kind of gets back into form. Klay Thompson, kind of looking at a bright spot of this game. Klay Thompson, I thought, played incredible this game. He showed why he has improved, and I feels like gotten back to maybe like 80% of that Klay Thompson before the Achilles, before the ACL. Kind of a consistent scorer, a mid-range scorer, somebody that the Celtics actually do have to guard, and the post-split action really as deadly as it ever has been, it feels like. I'm really encouraged with his performance. I was kind of a doubter for a little while, I'm not going to lie. Like, I didn't think he'd ever get back to somebody who we could rely on for 20 points a night. It seems like we can. It seems like he's a guy who can score in most games, and he's finding his rhythm back, and I'm really happy to see that. I'm happy to see that. And I think that's going to be huge heading into the playoffs, us having 3 elite guards.
Yeah, the Warriors don't look that bad if you judge each individual player. I think what's usually just happening is that within the first few minutes of, 2 or 3 of the 4 quarters, they just play incredibly poorly, give up the lead, and then you have to fight back in a close game, or just have a close game, which are harder on the road. And I think that right there gives you like 10 losses, and
yeah, makes it tough for sure. It feels like the Warriors just need somebody to do kind of those little things correctly in the middle of the game that turns like a turnover into 2 points, and that would have won them the game. Like somebody to box out Robert Williams one more time, would have won the game. Just those little tiny things that keep us. Because if you look at the advanced statistics, actually on the road, the Warriors have been pretty terrible in close games for like a clutch team. And I think that's where it really shows. Like Draymond Green's always doing the dirty work and everything like that. We just need that one extra play, that one extra guy. And usually I feel like in the playoffs, Wiggins is that guy. Wiggins is the guy. And you even saw tonight, he like picked Jason Tatum's pocket for like a second and like caused him to fumble the ball and things of that nature, which is huge. And I think him getting back into his real form heading into the playoffs will be key for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the reason people are still so high on the Warriors is just because it's very odd because the Warriors play some nights just amazing, beautiful basketball. I mean, the games are sometimes close still, but the Warriors play good basketball. They show good process. They play disciplined defense. They have, at least the starting five, or I guess the first 7 players that play in a game, have all shown extreme comfort in the Warriors system. But for some reason this year, some of these random nights, the Bulls game a few days ago, the Pistons game, what was that, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
The Magic game at the start of the season, these games are just happening much more.
Yeah, and I think motivation is definitely a factor. I hope this game is kind of a little bit more of a wake-up game, one that, like, hey, we lost to the Celtics. We beat them 7 times in a row. I think the stat was, hey, we need to do something about it. Like, we need to get better. We need to – and I think Curry kind of talked about that in his most recent post-game interview, not the one today, but the one before, just saying, like, hey, we haven't done it yet. We haven't shown everyone that we're here yet. We need to go on a little bit of a stretch. And so I think that's coming, honestly. I think the Warriors are about to put up a lot. If they play like they did tonight versus everyone else in the league, I mean, we're looking at a 15-5 type of stretch, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say that for Warriors fans who are down or convinced this season is a failure, I just think you have to contrast the way that these Warriors play relative to league standard. So, the Warriors are in many ways responsible for how the league plays, but the Warriors have always been unique. They rely on total movement at all times. And 90% of other teams in the league rely on primary ball handler, high usage star, spread pick and roll, 5-out shooters, kick out. And that is a really efficient way to play, but the Warriors' way is more efficient, except whenever they make more mistakes than on average, which is what's been happening. And that just leads to tough games.
Yeah, for sure. And a tough loss for the Warriors. You got anything else, Jeff, for the fans out there? Anything else to say about the kind of the game and everything that happened?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I think my summary of tonight's game is Warriors played well. Good defense, good offensive process, needs more rebounds, but in a few more losses, it's not really going to matter if they played well and lost or if they got blown out and lost. It's just going to matter that they lost. So something needs to change because the Warriors don't have much more in their bank of losses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the providing message of this all is we played well tonight, but we need to start playing well every night, and we need to start racking up those wins. So, all right, everyone, that'll be kind of the end of our live stream today. Thank you, Jeff, for joining me today on this Warriors, I guess I could call it Warriors post-game live. Thank y'all, and we'll be back next time giving you some more content, probably about the NBA in general, maybe about the Warriors as well. Who knows? We'll hit you with it when we do. But keep watching our channel here at The Clear Path. Thank you all.